When he retired, he was considered the greatest shooter of all time and one of the best trash talkers the NBA has ever seen. He was able to get under Michael Jordan's skin like no other, even getting MJ suspended. Reggie Miller is one of only 27 players in NBA history with over 25,000 points and is widely regarded as one of the most clutch players ever. Known as the Knick Killer, Reggie was famous for scoring 8 points in 9 seconds and letting all of New York, namely Spike Lee, know how badly they choked the game. But he was never able to get over the hump and win an NBA championship. So how good was Reggie Miller actually? Born in 1965, Reginald Wayne Miller was never supposed to become an NBA player. His hips were deformed at birth, causing his ankles to point inward. And the doctors told his parents that not only would he never play sports, but that it would be a miracle if he ever even walked normally. For the first 5 years of his life, Reggie wore leg braces, similar to young Forrest in the movie Forrest Gump. "I remember watching games in our driveway out the window," Reggie Miller said. "There was a hoop. My brothers and sister would be running around, playing. I was so anxious to get those braces off. I wanted to go out and run too." But when his legs finally got healthy and he could take off his braces, Reggie's life barely got any easier. "Everyone in my family took turns kicking my butt in basketball, especially Cheryl." See, Cheryl was 2 years older than Reggie, and she would become one of the best female basketball players of all time, winning the Naismith Collegiate Player of the Year award 3 times, as well as 2 NCAA championships with USC, and multiple gold medals for Team USA. But her favorite opponent was her younger brother, whom she trash-talked every time they played one-on-one. Cheryl would trample all over him, the family's youngest sister Tammy once said. Reggie was just a skinny little twig. But not only did playing against Cheryl toughen him up, it also developed the deadliest weapon in Reggie Miller's game. I was getting my shot blocked all the time. She was 3-4 inches taller than me. Taller, faster, quicker, could jump higher. So trying to shoot over her was a chore. So I would move back a couple of feet from her and shoot with a high arc to get it over her. And when he got to high school, Reggie was still skinny as a stick, weighing 135 pounds and standing only 5'9". Due to his size, he had no dreams of becoming an NBA player, and all he wanted was to get a college scholarship to alleviate the financial burden for his parents. But most of all, Reggie wanted to finally beat Cheryl. So he kept shooting, sometimes up to 700 jumpers a day. And by the time he was a sophomore, Reggie was one of the most efficient scorers in California. But despite finally playing for the varsity team at Riverside Poly High School and putting up big numbers, there was no doubt who the basketball alpha in the family really was.
What was he thinking when you scored 105 points in a single game?
He was happy until he found out about that.
However, during his junior season, Reggie could finally match up with his big sister physically. A growth spurt had pushed him past Cheryl's height of 6'2", and when he returned home for Christmas during her freshman season at USC, Reggie challenged her to a one-on-one game, and Cheryl agreed. The first time she drove to the basket, he blocked her shot.
I crossed him over, got past him, and then hit my fadeaway, and I hear a pinned it. And I remember landing and then looking back, and he's still up there looking down with the ball still pinned, pulled it down. He goes, "I'm gonna give you another try."
Second time, same result. Third time, there was no third time. From now on, Cheryl Miller said, "We just play horse." But even though he at last defeated his sister after years of tormenting, the ghost of Cheryl's greatness was still haunting Reggie. When opposing fans tried to get under his skin, they started screaming, "Cheryl, Cheryl" chants. But what they didn't know was that Reggie loved being hated. Hardened by all the trash talk in the driveway and the constant teasing from his friends that his sister was kicking his butt, Reggie was now impervious to trash talk, and everybody who tried to say something to him on the basketball court only made Miller more determined to destroy him. As a senior, Reggie averaged 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2.5 steals per game, which earned him a scholarship at UCLA. While playing for the Bruins, Miller saw very little playing time as a freshman, mainly due to his skinny frame, even though he was tall for a shooting guard, standing at 6'7". But Miller was a tireless worker, and as a sophomore, he became a permanent starter, averaging 15 points per game. And then he exploded. In his junior season, Miller led the Pac-10 conference in scoring, averaging 26 points per game while shooting 56% from the field and 88% from the free throw line. He also showed his temper and trash-talking skills, because in a game against Arizona, he got ejected for calling a referee crooked. "This is the worst game I've seen you officiate in my life. You know what it seems like to me? Seems like all these in here paid you to referee a game like this," Reggie said to the ref before leaving the court. But in the following season, the NCAA adopted the three-point line, 7 years after it was implemented in the NBA. Miller immediately showed his shooting prowess, making over 2 threes per game on 44% shooting behind the arc. Reggie finished his college career as the second all-time leading scorer in UCLA history, behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Miller still holds multiple individual records, like the 33 points he scored in the second half against Louisville, which is still the Bruins' record for most points in a half. But despite his impeccable shooting, before the 1987 NBA draft, Reggie still weighed below 180 pounds, and that's why he slipped in the draft. Even though he was probably the third best player in the class behind David Robinson and Scottie Pippen, Miller was ultimately selected 11th overall by the Pacers, which didn't sit too well with the fans. In fact, Indiana fans booed the selection, as they wanted the Pacers to draft their hometown hero Steve Alford, who attended Indiana University. But as it often turns out, the fans were wrong, because Steve Alford played just 4 years in the league, while Reggie became a Pacers legend. Before the first season truly even started, the skinny 175-pound Miller was as confident as they come, daring to talk trash to the best player on the planet.
Can you believe Michael Jordan, the guy everyone's talking about, who's supposed to be able to walk on water? You're out here killing him, Reg. This is in the first half. He's like, you should be talking to him. He's like, you're right, Michael. Who do you think you are? The great Michael Jordan? That's right. There's a new kid on town, right? Kind of looks at me and starts shaking his head. So at half, I have 10 and he has 4 points, right? And I'm doing all this talking. He's like, okay. Into the game in the second half, he ended up with 44 and I ended up with 12. So he outscored me 40-2. And as he's walking off, he's like, be sure and be careful. You never talk to Black Jesus like that. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Black Jesus.
And despite getting torched by MJ, Miller didn't disappoint as a rookie. He averaged 10 points per game in his first season, shooting 48% from the field and 36% from three-point range. Reggie only started 1 game and backed up veteran John Long, but he was the only Pacer to play in all 82 games that season. Miller also broke an 8-year-old mark set by Larry Bird when he hit 61 three-pointers in 1988, more than any other rookie in NBA history. Dennis Scott would later shatter the mark by hitting 125 three-pointers in 1991. In his second season, Miller's scoring average rose to 16 points per game, as he was the Pacers' second leading scorer and first in steals and made threes. But it wasn't until 1990 that he truly took off. Reggie averaged 24.6 points, the 8th best mark in the league, while shooting the lights out, 51% from the field, 41% from three, and 87% from the free throw line. Miller was the 3rd most efficient scorer in the NBA, and he was named an All-Star, becoming the first Pacer to make the All-Star team since 1977. His quick release and ability to shoot off screens made him nearly impossible to guard. Miller's lanky frame and constant movement without the ball allowed him to create space and get open looks. Now, moving without the ball and hunting for three-point shots seems normal now, but in the 90s, Reggie was a pioneer and the only guard who constantly ran through screens to find the best possible shot. He was also not afraid to talk smack to anybody, no matter how good they were.
My 3rd year playing the Celtics in Market Square Arena at the time, and it was a close game, but they were going to end up winning it. He's at the free throw line. And gamesmanship and talking a little bit, I'm going to try to, throw off his rhythm, thinking I'm going to throw off Larry Bird's rhythm. And, as the official goes to give the guy the ball, you'll cross the lane, like, hold up, you'll cross the lane and, just try to ice the shooter a little bit. I did that once, and then I kind of did it again, right? So he gets the ball from the official, dribble it once. He's like, Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? I'm the best shooter this game has ever seen. You think you're going to be able to ice me as he's talking? Next one, wah. I'm like, damn. I walk to the other side, and Kevin McHale goes, yeah, that was kind of stupid of you to do something like that, right? I'm like, oh shit. He's like, I am the best shooter this game, and he's saying it out loud so everyone can see. I'm like, oh my God, he's outing me at my home in front of all my family and friends. I'm the best shooter this game has ever seen. Wow, it's true.
Indiana finally had a star, and thanks to Reggie, the Pacers made the playoffs for just the 2nd time in 9 years. And while Reggie helped the Pacers secure a playoff spot, it's important that you feel secure buying gifts this holiday season. Which is why this episode of Nonstop is brought to you by Cash App. I mean, personally, I love Cash App because they go above and beyond to protect their users from one of the scariest things we all run into when sending money to people: scams. Have you ever fallen for a scam? I mean, it feels like every other day I'm receiving a text message about some mystery parking ticket or receiving a call from a random number asking for my personal information. And around the holidays, it only gets worse because scammers know the holidays are busy for everyone, which can make us all targets for scams. That's why Cash App builds in protection to help keep your money safe while you're checking off your shopping list. If you're about to send money to someone for a deal that's too good to be true and Cash App flags it as a potential scam, they'll warn you before you send the money. Cash App also gives you an extra layer of protection with features like Security Lock. You can require a PIN, Face ID, or a fingerprint to unlock your account and move money. So even if someone gets a hold of your unlocked phone at a holiday party, your money is right where you left it. Gift yourself some peace of mind this holiday season and download Cash App. And for a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code SECURE10 in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Incorporated brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Unfortunately for Indiana, the defending champion Detroit Pistons swept the Pacers in a first-round series, despite Miller's 20.7 points per game on 57% shooting. In the next 3 seasons, Reggie continued to score, doing it efficiently. He averaged 21.5 points per game between 1991 and 1993, shooting close to 50-40-90, once leading the league in three-pointers made and once in free throw percentage. But the Pacers, well, they were a mediocre team, hovering only around 500 and barely making the playoffs, where they would always lose in the first round. But none of those losses were Miller's fault, who always improved his numbers in the postseason, averaging 26 points per game while making 53% of his field goals and an unreal 51% behind the arc during those 3 playoff runs. But even though he couldn't win on the court, Miller did everything possible to win with his mouth. In February 1993, during a regular season game against the Bulls, Reggie got into Jordan's head. I went over to him and asked, "Dog, you all right?" Miller said. He looked at me crazy like. I think he thought I purposely tried to trip him. "Mike, you all right?" Nothing. So I said, "F you then, Reggie." Next trip down the court, out of the view of the refs, Jordan gave Miller an elbow to the throat. The refs weren't calling anything. I started thinking they were going to let him get away with it. On the ensuing Pacers fast break, Pooh Richardson missed a layup. Miller followed with the tip-in, and his momentum carried him past the baseline. He gave Jordan a nice little shove, an undeniably cheap shot, and Jordan didn't like it. Enraged, he came charging at Miller, pointing his finger in his face, reaching for his throat, and swinging at him with a closed fist. Teammates had to pull him off. Miller was ejected and fined $6,000 while Jordan stayed in the game, but was later fined and suspended for 1 game. Now, in the 1993 playoffs, during the first-round series against the Knicks, who would become Miller's biggest nemesis, Reggie continued to run his mouth. In Game 1 of the series, Reggie matched up with shooting guard John Starks, whom he knew he could get inside the head of.
Starks could be triggered. And I knew that.
When you play against them, Miller once said of facing the Knicks, you gotta play like a dick sometimes. And Miller embodied that credo to the fullest. In one of the first trips down the court in Game 1, Reggie started trash-talking Starks, who then elbowed Miller in the back. "It's gonna be like that all series," Starks told him. "It was the last time Starks was stupid enough to call me bitch," Miller said. Miller went for 32 that night, at one point looking up at the scoreboard and mentioning it to Starks. Miller 26, Starks 5. "You ever gonna score tonight? You should have never touched me in the first place," Miller said. "In fact, I think you like me." The smack talk continued throughout the series, but New York was the better team, and they advanced, winning the series 3-1. However, things started to change for the better in 1994, when Larry Brown took over as Indiana's coach. Even though Miller's scoring average slipped to 19.9 points per game, he finished second in the league in free throw percentage and third in three-point percentage. He also became the team's all-time leading scorer, and only the 4th player in NBA history to hit 800 three-pointers in his career. That season, he also joined Larry Bird and Mark Price in the exclusive 50-40-90 club. 6 players have since joined him. Due to Brown's leadership and the new core of the team of Miller, center Rick Smits, and forwards Dale and Antonio Davis, the Pacers won 47 games that year and then went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. In the playoffs, Miller averaged 23.2 points per game, but his performance in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks was his coming-out party. In that game, Miller dropped 25 points in the fourth quarter, going 5 for 5 from three-point range to lead Indiana to a 93-86 comeback victory at Madison Square Garden. But what made his performance famous, other than the stellar shooting, was the trash talk between Miller and the legendary Knicks superfan, director Spike Lee. During the fourth quarter, Spike and Reggie were constantly bickering, and after one of his made shots, Reggie showed a choke sign to Spike, reminding him that his team choked and lost the game. However, Spike and the Knicks had the last laugh, as New York won the next two games, advancing to the NBA Finals, despite Reggie leading both teams in scoring in Games 6 and 7. That summer, Miller played for Team USA, dubbed the Dream Team 2, and Reggie led all U.S. players in scoring with 17 points per game, as Team USA captured another gold medal. For the 1995 NBA season, the Pacers added the experienced point guard Mark Jackson, and with him at the helm, Indiana won a franchise record 50 games. Thanks to his beef with Spike Lee, Reggie was now one of the biggest stars in the league, and the fans voted him to start in an All-Star game, and he was also named to the All-NBA third team. In the first round of the playoffs, the Pacers swept the Hawks, with Reggie averaging 32 points per game. But in the second round, a familiar opponent awaited, the New York Knicks, with the two teams meeting in the playoffs for the third consecutive year. And in the first game of the series, the Knicks had the edge once again, leading by 6 with less than 20 seconds to play. But then came the most legendary moment of Reggie Miller's career, which will forever be known as 8 points in 9 seconds. Thanks to Reggie's heroics, the Pacers stole Game 1 and would go on to win the series in 7 games, with Miller leading all scorers with 23 points per game. Longtime rival Patrick Ewing would later say, "He's the kind of guy when you play against him, you want to smack him, but when you play with him, you have his back. You have the utmost respect for him. He came out, he played hard, and did what he needed to do to help his team win." In the next round against the Shaquille O'Neal-led Orlando Magic, Miller exploded in the first 6 games. He scored 17 points in the first quarter of Game 1, and 26 for the contest, then notched 37 in Game 2. In Game 6, he scored 28 points in the first half, on the way to a 36-point evening, as the Pacers evened the series. But in Game 7, the Magic held Reggie in check, as he only scored 12 points, while Orlando advanced to the NBA Finals. In 1996, Reggie averaged 21 points per game and once again made the All-Star and the All-NBA third team. Unfortunately, after a collision that fractured Miller's eye socket late in the regular season, Reggie could not rebound fast enough to get ready for the playoffs. And without Miller in the lineup, the Hawks and the Pacers split the first 4 games. But then, Miller made a dramatic Game 5 return in front of the home crowd. Although he scored 29 points, the Hawks secured a 2-point victory, putting an end to Indiana's season. The following year, the 31-year-old Miller had another strong season, but the Pacers struggled, failing to make the playoffs, after which Coach Larry Brown resigned. But in his place came another Larry, whom they called the Legend, and who was Indiana's hometown hero. With Larry Bird as their new head coach, the Pacers immediately had championship aspirations, helped by the arrival of Chris Mullin and more minutes for the versatile forward Jalen Rose. The Pacers won 58 games in 1998, a new franchise record, with Reggie Miller making another All-NBA third team. After they got past the Cavaliers in the first round, Miller and the Pacers played the Knicks, meeting them for the 4th time in 6 years. By then, all the Knicks fans hated Reggie, who was infamous in the Garden due to his 8 points in 9 seconds, and his beef with Starks and Spike Lee. And Miller, well, he loved to taunt the Knicks fans. And what also didn't help is that Reggie had written a book, I Love Being the Enemy, where he had a special note for the fans in the Garden, simply saying, "Thanks for booing." But in the 1998 series, Reggie didn't have to talk too much, as he silenced the crowd with his game. Miller averaged a series-leading 24.6 points, and the Pacers advanced in 5 games, after which Reggie was officially known as the Knick Killer. However, in the conference finals, another nemesis awaited: Michael Jordan. The Bulls were running on fumes, having been to the finals in the previous 2 seasons, and were spent physically and emotionally in the season that will forever be remembered as the Last Dance. Now, on the other hand, the Pacers were a tough, seasoned opponent, which made the series extremely competitive. After dropping 2 close games in Chicago, Reggie and the Pacers bounced back in Game 3, as Miller scored 13 of his 28 points in the final 4.5 minutes of the 107-105 win, despite a sprained ankle. And even though his clutch status is now widely recognized, Reggie was just as infamous for his grabbing and flopping tactics that either earned him the benefit of the referee's whistle or freed him up to get his shot off. And Reggie confirmed both of those reputations in Game 4. While being closely guarded by Jordan, Miller rocked Jordan off balance with his hands to break loose and nailed a miraculous three-pointer with 2.7 seconds remaining that gave the Pacers a 96-94 victory. The series was now tied, and home teams won the next 2 games, setting up a Game 7 in Chicago. In a tightly competitive game, the Pacers held a 72-69 lead with less than 9 minutes to play. But then the Bulls clamped down defensively, dominating the boards and stealing the ball from the Pacers 3 times.
The Bulls won 6 championships. They never went to Game 7 except against us. I just remember us being up 18 points in the first half, feeling like we might actually beat the Bulls. Then all of a sudden, it was like a video game. We couldn't get the ball past half court. They were the Chicago Bulls. They went on to win a championship.
And Scottie Pippen hit a couple of big shots down the stretch to end the Pacers season, as the Bulls won 88-83. In 1999, the NBA went through a labor lockout and played just a 50-game schedule. The Pacers tied the Miami Heat for the Eastern Conference's best record at 33-17, and individually, Miller led the NBA in free throw percentage, while also becoming the NBA's all-time career leader in three-pointers made and attempted. The team reached the Eastern Conference Finals for the 4th time in 6 years, sweeping the Bucks and the Sixers in the first 2 rounds, with Reggie averaging 24 points per game across the 2 series. And without the Bulls in their way, everybody believed that Miller would finally make the finals. But then, the Knicks blocked their way. In one of the biggest surprises of all time, the 8th-seeded Knicks made the finals, defeating Indiana in 6 games, with Reggie averaging just 16 points per game in the series, losing to the Knicks for the 3rd time in 5 playoff matchups. Reggie was now 34 years old, and everyone thought he had missed his best chance to make the finals. However, in the 2000 season, Miller and the Pacers bounced back. They won 56 games in the regular season, topping the Eastern Conference for the first time during Miller's career. Reggie averaged 18 points per game, making the All-Star team for the 5th and final time. But as usual, he was even better in the playoffs. Miller averaged 24 points per game in the first round against the Bucks, and then 25 points in 6 games against the Sixers, while shooting well above 50-40-90 for the series. In the conference finals, the Pacers and the Knicks met for the 6th time in 8 years, thus becoming the biggest rivalry of the decade. But this time, the Knicks were older, and there was no stopping Reggie, who led all scorers with 22 points per game, leading the Pacers to their first NBA Finals after 6 games. However, in the finals, they played against a monster. Shaquille O'Neal was in a league of his own that season, and was 1 vote shy of becoming the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. Shaq averaged 41 points and 22 rebounds in the first 2 games, which the Lakers won easily. Indiana countered in Game 3, led by Reggie's 33 points, taking advantage of Kobe Bryant's absence, who was deliberately hurt by Jalen Rose in Game 2.
I don't think I'm hard because I tried to hurt Kobe Bryant in a game. I'm disgusted by it because, I wanted to win that bad that I was willing to basically cheat to do it.
But Kobe recovered for Game 4, which really hurt the Pacers. It looked like Indiana would win the game after Shaq fouled out in overtime, but Kobe then took over, scoring 8 points in the extra time, including a game-winning tip-in. And even though Game 5 was a blowout and Indiana extended the series, they couldn't stop Shaq, who led the Lakers to another championship in Game 6. O'Neal averaged 38 points and 17 rebounds in the finals. And even though Reggie played great, averaging 24 points per game, the Lakers were simply a better team. After the season, Bird left, and in his place came Isaiah Thomas. But with a complete roster overhaul, with only Miller and Rose remaining from the finals team, the Pacers predictably struggled, finishing as the 8th seed in the East. Miller's offense dipped, as Rose became more of an offensive option in 2001. But when the playoffs came, once again, it was Reggie time. He hit a vintage three-pointer with 2.9 seconds left to deliver a shocking 79-78 victory in Game 1 against Philly. Miller then proceeded to average 36 points over the next 3 games, but it wasn't enough, as the Sixers rebounded to win the series in 4 games. In 2002, Miller led the NBA in free throw percentage for the 4th time in his career, but Indiana was only slightly better than the previous season and was once again the 8th seed. However, in the playoffs, Reggie once again proved that he's the most clutch player in the NBA. the Pacers pushed the top-seeded Nets to the brink, forcing the deciding Game 5, back when the first round of the playoffs was still played in a best-of-5 format, and it seemed like the Pacers would lose the game, when Reggie hit one of the most famous shots of his career. And in the extra time, Reggie did it again. With the Pacers down by 2 in the final seconds of the first overtime, Miller drove into the lane and dunked over 3 Nets defenders to send the game into a second overtime. But in the end, it was all in vain, as the Nets rebounded to win 120-109 in double overtime to take the series. In the following season, the now 37-year-old Miller took a backseat to new team leaders, Jermaine O'Neal and Metta World Peace, then known as Ron Artest. Together with center Brad Miller and sixth man Al Harrington, Indiana once again had a formidable team that finished third in the East, but the Celtics were too strong, ousting Indiana from the playoffs in the first round for the third consecutive season. However, in 2004, the Pacers surprisingly emerged as title contenders. Jermaine O'Neal finished third in MVP voting, Artest won Defensive Player of the Year, while Al Harrington finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting. And even though he only averaged 10 points per game, Reggie was still extremely efficient, ready to hit the toughest shots when it was the most important. Indiana finished the regular season with a franchise record 61 wins, which was the best mark in the NBA. And through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they swept the Celtics and then defeated Miami in 6 to reach the conference finals against Detroit. The Pacers won Game 1 and were on the brink of winning Game 2. Reggie was all alone on a fast break that would tie the game in the final seconds, when the second most famous chase-down block in NBA history swung the game in Detroit's favor.
If I make that layup and we win that series, because I remember going into the locker room and telling J.O. and Ron, I was like, do you guys understand? Whoever wins this series is going to win a championship. Because the Lakers were waiting with Kobe and Shaq and all that. I was like, but they ain't playing defense like Detroit and us. Whoever wins this series is going to win a championship.
But they didn't win. In one of the lowest scoring series ever, with neither team averaging more than 75 points per game, the Pistons edged out the Pacers in 6 games, and just like Reggie predicted, would go on to win the championship. The 2 teams would meet again early in the 2005 season, and there was no love lost between the players. Artest got into a late-game scuffle with Ben Wallace, after which he decided to sit on the scorer's table until the game resumed. But then he got hit by a beer thrown from several rows up in the stands, and what happened next was the biggest brawl in NBA history, forever known as the Malice at the Palace. Due to the suspensions of Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, and Stephen Jackson, Reggie knew that his last chance to win the championship was gone. But Miller again became a primary option for the now disjointed team, and he returned with a vengeance. He scored at least 30 points 6 times and averaged almost 20 points per game in the absence of O'Neal, the team's leading scorer. In early April, Miller played his last game in the Garden, the site where many of his brilliant moments took place. Although it was somewhat anticlimactic, it was not unemotional. Initially, he was booed, but near the end of the game, in which he'd only scored 13 points, the crowd chanted, "Reggie, Reggie," and honored him with a standing ovation. Miller buried the hatchet with an embrace of Spike Lee, the very embodiment of the Knicks' anti-Miller sentiment. The Pacers surged late in the regular season and not only reached the playoffs, but did so as the 6th seed. In the first round, they upset the Celtics in 7 games, but they fell to the defending champion Pistons 4-2 in the second round, despite a vintage 27-point performance from Miller in his final game. Before the final whistle, Reggie left the floor for the last time to a hometown ovation that lasted minutes, and all the players from both teams joined the standing ovation for Miller's legendary career. Reggie retired as the 13th greatest scorer in NBA history, with 25,279 career points, and is now 26th on the all-time list. When he played his final game, he was also the all-time leader in made three-pointers, with 2,563s, and is now 6th on that list, and will soon be passed by LeBron James. With 88.8% free throw accuracy, he's also the 13th best free throw shooter ever. But Reggie was more than just pure numbers. Miller was constantly moving without the ball, and the opposing guards had to chase him around the half-court. This was later copied by Richard Hamilton, Ray Allen, and the Splash Brothers. But Reggie was a trailblazer. He was a nightmare to guard, which was confirmed by Michael Jordan in 1998. I don't really dislike anybody in the league, but playing Reggie Miller drives me nuts. If he played in the modern era, Miller would be even more successful because he only averaged 12.6 field goal attempts per game and just 4.7 three-pointers for his career, despite being one of the most efficient scorers ever. But Reggie's greatest strength was hitting the tough shots, which he proved numerous times in his career, and that's why he has to be considered as one of the most clutch players ever. I'd say my willingness to want the basketball at arguably the worst time of any game. If games were on the line, as much work as I put into the game, I knew I needed the ball. Thanks for watching. And if you like this video, we have another one for you right here.